She built a $12 million empire. They stole it, handed it to her useless cousin, but she didn't get mad. She got dangerous. Betrayal has a price, and she's here to collect. Stay till the end. This revenge is brutal. The champagne sparkled under the chandelier's glow, catching the light like 1,000 tiny betrayals. I stood at the edge of the dining room, my glass raised, lips curved into a smile that hid the storm brewing inside. They were toasting my demotion. 15 years of my life, my sweat, my sleepless nights, all reduced to a cheap brass plaque engraved with Legacy Keeper. My name is Elise, and I'd turned my father's crumbling textile empire into a $12 million powerhouse. But that wasn't enough to claim the CEO title I'd earned. Instead, it went to my younger cousin Nathan, who now sat at the head of the table, my table, grinning like he'd woven the company's success himself. To Nathan Reed, our new chief executive officer. My father's voice boomed across the oak-paneled room, where we'd gathered for our annual New Year's gala in our family's Connecticut estate. The executives and board members, every one of them male, clinked their glasses, their murmurs of approval slicing through me like dull knives. My aunt, Nathan's mother, caught my eye from across the table, her smile tight, almost apologetic. She knew, she always knew, and she never said a word. Speech. Someone called, and Nathan stood, smoothing his tailored blazer, the kind that cost more than our first factory's monthly lease. Well, damn, he chuckled, running a hand through his slicked-back hair. This is a surprise. A surprise? He'd spent the last 3 years bouncing between yoga retreats and crypto schemes that tanked faster than you could say blockchain. Meanwhile, I was the one working 16-hour days, negotiating contracts, and expanding our market from local distributors to international retailers. But sure, Nathan, tell me about surprises. I mean, I'm honored, he continued, his voice dripping with false humility. Dad's right. It's time for new energy, a bold vision to steer Reed Textiles into the future. No offense, Elise. You've done great work keeping things steady. Steady? I'd tripled our revenue in 5 years. I'd secured exclusive deals. With European designers, I dragged this company from the brink of bankruptcy, and he called it steady. My grip tightened on the flute, but my voice stayed smooth as silk. None taken, Nathan. I'm sure you'll do bold things. Lila, our supply chain director, shot me a glance from across the room. She knew what I'd sacrificed. Missed birthdays, cancelled trips, endless nights hunched over spreadsheets to ensure we hit our margins. She'd been there through it all, whispering warnings about the board's whispers, the ones that always ended with Nathan's the future. My father's voice cut through the chatter. Elise, come up here and give your cousin a proper welcome. I rose, my navy dress catching the light as I moved. Walking to the front felt like stepping into a lion's den in stilettos. I faced the crowd, my smile practiced, unshakable. Nathan, I said, turning to him, I remember when you were 12, playing factory in the warehouse, stacking fabric rolls like they were Legos. Soft laughter rippled through the room. Nathan's grin flickered. He knew where this was going. You toppled a whole rack of premium silk, $25,000 in ruined inventory. I paused, letting the memory sink in. I took the blame, told Dad it was my fault for not securing the shelves. That's what family does, right? We cover for each other. Old news, Nathan said quickly, his laugh too sharp. But I wasn't done. Exactly. Family supports family. I raised my glass again. To the new CEO, may you handle the real fabric better than those empty rolls. The chuckles that followed were uneasy, the kind that linger in the air like smoke. My father's jaw tightened, but he couldn't call me out without derailing his perfect evening. Later, as guests spilled onto the snow-dusted lawn, my father cornered me in the kitchen, his Scotch breath heavy. That was out of line, he growled. You're supposed to set an example. I stacked plates in the sink with deliberate care. Like the example you set? Handing the company to someone who thinks the supply chain is a Spotify playlist? His eyes narrowed. Nathan has vision. He'll learn the ropes. You did your part, Elise, but this company needs a leader who commands respect. Because I don't. The words burned my throat. I doubled our exports. I opened 2 new plants. He cut me off. You did your job, but Nathan's the future. You're too invested, emotional. Emotional. The word landed like a slap. Because I'm your daughter? I asked, my voice low. He didn't answer, just looked at me with that stubborn glint I'd known my whole life. Think about the family legacy, he said finally, before turning away. I stood alone, fingers tracing the plaque they'd given me. Legacy Keeper, as if that's all I was. A footnote in their story. They thought this was my end, the final stitch in my chapter at Reed Textiles. They didn't know about the documents locked in my safe, the late-night calls with suppliers, the new company I'd quietly launched 4 months ago when I first sensed the tide turning against me. They thought they'd written me off. They were wrong. This was just my first move. 6 months earlier, I'd sat in my office, the late spring light filtering through the blinds, illuminating a spreadsheet that confirmed my worst fears. I tapped the screen, glancing at Lila. Notice anything odd about the succession plan? She leaned over, her brow furrowing. They've got Nathan slotted for CEO, but he's not even... She stopped, meeting my eyes. How long have you known... Your dad would never let a woman run his company? I closed the laptop. Since I was 14, when he told me to focus on charm instead of contracts. Lila's silence was heavy. What's your play? I slid a folder across the desk. I incorporated a new company last month. Vantage Threads. Sustainable, high-tech fabric distribution. She flipped through the papers, her eyes widening. This is... next level. You're betting on eco-tech textiles? I nodded. The same pitch I gave the board last year. The one Dad called too speculative. You want me in? Lila asked, her voice steady. As COO, I'll run Vantage, but I need you managing operations. Reed Textiles won't evolve. It'll stagnate under Nathan. We both know it. She hesitated. Your dad trusts me. I could stay, feed you intel. I shook my head. No, I need you out front, visible, running Vantage with me. They'll never suspect you're with me if you're openly leading a competitor. A knock interrupted us. Marcus, our corporate lawyer, strode in, dropping a stack of contracts on my desk. Exclusive distribution rights for the top eco-tech fabric. Lines in North America. Sign these and no one, not even Reed Textiles, can touch these products without Vantage. I scanned the pages. Airtight? Marcus grinned. They'd need a miracle to find a loophole. Lila raised an eyebrow. What about your role here? Marcus shrugged. Already trained my replacement, some Ivy League kid who'll be too busy chasing clout to notice what's coming. I picked up a pen, its weight grounding me. Once I sign, there's no turning back. Lila's voice was soft. There's no going back anywhere. You've seen the emails. She was right. I'd found them weeks ago, threads between my father and the board, praising Nathan's natural charisma while dismissing my track record as reliable support. The pen scratched across the paper, my signature sharp and final. It's done, I said, sliding the contracts to Marcus. Make it official. That afternoon, I sat through another board meeting, watching my father Lord Nathan's latest idea, a half-baked plan to open stores in markets we couldn't sustain. Elise, he said, catching me off guard, you're quiet. Thoughts on your cousin's proposal? I smiled, the one I'd perfected over years of being sidelined. It's ambitious, but have we stress-tested the logistics? Those markets are volatile. Nathan laughed, too loud. Always with the fine print, Elise. Sometimes you gotta swing big. Speaking of big swings, I said smoothly, have you locked in the eco-tech fabric lines for this plan? They're projected to drive 35% of your revenue. Nathan's confidence wavered. We've got solid supplier ties. I leaned forward. Actually, I heard those rights were snapped up by a new player. Vantage Threads, I think. The room stilled. My father's eyes narrowed. We'll handle it, he said tightly. I stood, gathering my notes. I'm sure someone will. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a call with our overseas partners. As I left, I heard Nathan mutter, Who the hell runs Vantage? I paused at the door. I'm sure you'll find out. Back in my office, I fired off an email to Marcus. No distribution deals for Reed Textiles. None. My phone buzzed. A text from my aunt. Dinner with your dad and Nathan tonight. They're planning the future. Please come. I typed back, busy? Someone's gotta handle the details. Then I opened Vantage's incorporation papers, the familiar anger rising. They'd told me to wait my turn, to support the men in charge. I was done waiting, done supporting, done being. The loyal cousin who smiled while they built their empire on my foundation. They wanted me in my place. I'd show them exactly where that was. 2 weeks after that New Year's gala, I watched from Vantage's sleek Boston office as Nathan's face dominated every business channel. He'd called a press conference to unveil Reed Textiles' game-changing pivot to sustainable fabrics. Turn it up, I told Marcus, who grabbed the remote. Nathan's voice filled the room, too polished, too sure. We're thrilled to announce our exclusive partnership with the leading ecotech fabric innovators. Reed Textiles will be the only name in sustainable luxury. Does he know? Lila asked, stepping in with a stack of reports. That he's hyping a deal that doesn't exist. I sipped my coffee. Not yet, but he's about to. My phone buzzed. A text from Tara, Nathan's new assistant. Emergency board meeting at 2 p.m. He's losing it. I'd met Tara over drinks last week after noticing how Nathan had her scheduling his gym sessions instead of leveraging her supply chain expertise. He asked me to color code his smoothie recipes, she'd said, stirring her gin. I have a master's degree. I'd slid her my card. If you want to work where talent matters, call me. Now, watching Nathan sweat through his press conference, I knew Tara's signing bonus was money well spent. My phone rang. Jared, Reed's procurement lead. Elise, why are our suppliers saying we can't access the ecotech lines? I called Vantage, and their CEO's office keeps dodging me. I leaned back. Ask Nathan. He's the one announcing partnerships he didn't secure. After hanging up, I turned to Lila. How long till they figure it out? She checked her tablet. The press is already tearing into the release. Their stock's down 8%. My father called next. I let it go to voicemail. Elise, whatever you're pulling, stop it. His message snarled. Nathan needs your support. Call me. I deleted it and checked the time. Shall we? I asked Lila. She nodded. Let's make them sweat a bit longer. At 2:30, we walked into Reed Textiles' boardroom, the air thick with panic. Nathan jumped up when he saw me. Where have you been? We're in crisis mode. My father's voice was sharp. Sit down, Nathan. Elise, what do you know about Vantage? Threads! I took my time settling into a chair, smoothing my skirt. I know they've locked up exclusive rights to the ecotech fabrics you just promised to every retailer in the Northeast. Nathan sputtered. That's impossible. We've got decades of supplier relationships. I tilted my head. Relationships aren't contracts. Maybe you should have checked before going live on CNN. My father leaned forward, his voice low. You're behind this. You've always been jealous of Nathan's potential. Potential? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make Nathan flinch. What potential? The failed NFT venture? The meditation app that lost $2 million? Or maybe you mean his talent for being born with the right last name? The room went quiet. How dare you? My father started, but I cut him off, standing, hand braced on the table. No, how dare you? I built this company. I secured those suppliers. I crafted every strategy that kept us alive, and you handed it to someone who can't read a balance sheet without a tutor. Nathan's face paled. We can fix this. We'll negotiate with Vantage. Lila spoke up, her voice calm but cutting. They don't need to negotiate. They've got exclusive contracts with us. The boardroom froze. Us? My father whispered. I smiled, the same smile I'd worn at the gala. Lila's COO of Vantage Threads, and I own the majority stake. Nathan's voice cracked. You can't do this. We're family. Family. I grabbed my bag, heading for the door. I stopped being family when you took credit for my life's work. Now I'm just a competitor. I paused, turning back. Oh, and Nathan, You might want to prep a retraction for that press conference. Shareholders don't love being lied to. As Lila and I left, I heard my father shouting for their legal team, but we both knew it was too late. The game had shifted, and I was playing to win. A month later, I sat across from Nathan and my father in Vantage's conference room, the tension between us thick enough to choke on. Marcus sat to my right, a stack of contracts neatly arranged. Lila stood by the window, watching the city hum below. Nathan tossed the proposal back across the table. These terms are absurd. A 60% markup, order minimums that'd fill a stadium. I folded my hands. Market rate for exclusive cutting-edge fabrics. My father's face was a dangerous shade of red. This is extortion. No, I said, my voice steady. This is business, the kind you taught me. Leverage your advantage. Nathan tried his CEO pose, leaning forward. Look, Elise, I get it. You're upset. I cut him off with a laugh. Upset? I'm not upset, Nathan. I'm negotiating. But if you'd rather skip the hottest fabric line of the decade, that's your call. Your competitors are already calling us. My father slammed a fist on the table. You'll ruin us. Actually, Marcus interjected, sliding forward a financial analysis. You could afford these terms if Nathan hadn't overextended the company with his retail expansion. Nathan's eyes darted to the numbers, his confidence crumbling. How did you get this? I tilted my head. You should vet your assistants better. Tara says hi. My father shot to his feet, his chair scraping. You planted a spy? I didn't plant anyone. Tara came to me after you had her organizing your golf schedule instead of using her logistics degree. My aunt slipped into the room uninvited, her face pale. Elise, I'm still a shareholder. This has to stop. I turned to her, my voice cool. Like you stopped Dad from sidelining me for 15 years. Like you stopped Nathan from taking credit for my deals. Her eyes glistened, but I didn't soften. You want this to stop? Here's the deal. Accept our terms or watch your market share vanish while your rivals stock our fabrics. Your choice. You're betraying us, my father said, his voice low, dangerous. You set the price for betrayal at that gala, I shot back. I'm just matching it. Nathan grabbed the analysis, his hands shaking. Dad, these numbers, we can't survive without these fabrics. My father's voice was stubborn. We'll find another supplier. Lila turned from the window. There is no other supplier. We made sure of that. My aunt stood, her voice trembling. Elise, a word, alone. In the hallway she faced me, tears spilling. I should have fought for you, but destroying the company won't fix this. I stepped closer. This isn't about fixing anything, it's about consequences. She shook her head. You're becoming just like him, unyielding, cold. I smiled faintly. No, I'm becoming what he always wanted, a ruthless leader. He just doesn't like it when it's aimed at him. Back in the room, Nathan and my father were whispering over the contracts. Time's up, Marcus said, tapping his watch. Our next meeting starts soon. Nathan's head snapped up. Next meetings? I leaned back. Your competitors are eager for regional exclusivity. We're taking offers this afternoon. My father's face drained of color. You wouldn't. I met his gaze. Try me. Nathan grabbed a pen, his hand trembling. Where do I sign? My father lunged forward. Nathan, don't. But Nathan cut him off. We've got no choice, Dad. You saw the numbers. I watched as Nathan signed, each stroke a small victory that tasted bitter. My father stormed out, my aunt trailing behind. At the door, she paused. I hope this is worth it, she whispered. I held her gaze. It's not about worth, it's about justice. The door clicked shut, and the room fell silent. Lila broke it, her voice soft. You okay? I nodded, but the truth was heavier. Justice didn't feel like I'd imagined. It felt like a weight I couldn't shake. 2 months later, I sat in Vantage's office, watching Reed Textiles decline through Tara's report. Another store shuttered in Philly, their stock tanking daily. Lila dropped a news article on my desk. Fourth closure this quarter. Nathan's retail plan is bleeding them dry. I barely looked up. They're over-leveraged. It was inevitable. Lila frowned. When's the last time you took a break? I checked my watch, realizing I couldn't remember. Vengeance had become my fuel, my office, my fortress. "I'm fine," I said, but my voice was brittle. Marcus burst in, his face grim. "We've got a breach. Someone accessed our servers last night. Distribution contracts, launch schedules." My stomach dropped. "Who?" He hesitated. "Internal access. Tara's not answering her phone." I grabbed my coat. "Where was she last seen?" Lila checked her messages. "The diner near Reed's HQ. She was supposed to meet me with some file." We found Tara at the diner, staring into a cold coffee. I slid into the booth across from her. "Planning to sell our data to Nathan?" She didn't flinch. "He offered $300,000 for your launch calendar. I told him to get lost." Her eyes met mine, hard. "But I kept the data." I leaned forward. "Why?" She pushed a USB drive across the table. "To see what you're turning into. You're not eating, not sleeping, snapping at everyone. You're becoming a machine, Elise." Her words hit harder than I expected. "They deserved this," I said, my voice low. "Did they? Your dad's in the hospital. Stress-induced arrhythmia. Is that enough?" I froze. "He's what?" Tara leaned closer. "The board's forcing a sale. Reed Textiles is done. You won. So what's left of you?" I thought of Lila's worried glances, Marcus's careful distance. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Reed's stock was suspended again. Tara stood. "I didn't keep the data to sell it. I kept it to remind myself I'm not like you, not yet." She walked out, leaving the USB behind. I stared at it, her words echoing. "What's left of you?" That night, my phone rang. Nathan, his voice raw. "The buyers are circling. Some private equity group. They'll gut the company, fire everyone. I need your help, Elise. Not for me, for the 2,500 employees who'll lose their jobs." I thought of the workers I'd known since I was a kid, the ones who'd taught me to thread a loom, who'd stayed late to meet deadlines. "Send me the details," I said, hanging up. Lila was waiting in my office, her arms crossed. "What's the move?" I stared out the window at the city lights. "The buyers will strip Reed for parts, sell the factories, liquidate inventory, cut everyone loose." "Unless," Lila prompted. I turned to her. "Unless we buy it first, merge Reed with Vantage, streamline operations, keep the jobs." Her eyebrows shot up. "You're serious? After everything?" I nodded. "Not for them, for the people who don't deserve to pay for their mistakes." My phone buzzed, a text from my aunt. "Your dad's asking for you. Hospital, please." I ignored it, turning to Marcus. "Get the merger docs ready. We're doing this clean. No games." The hospital room was sterile, the beeping monitors a stark contrast to my father's frail form. He looked up as I entered, his eyes tired but sharp. "Come to gloat?" he rasped. I sat beside him, setting a folder on the tray. "No, to make an offer. Vantage will buy Reed Textiles. Fair market value, no layoffs." He coughed, wincing. "So you can tear it down?" I shook my head. "So? I can save it. 2,500 jobs, 50 years of history. It's worth more than revenge." He studied me, his voice softening. "Why do this?" "Because I'm done breaking things," I said. "Aren't you?" Nathan burst in, clutching his phone. "The equity firm upped their bid." I didn't flinch. "Sit down, both of you." I laid out the plan, merge the companies, modernize, retain the workforce. "You'd run it?" my father asked, skeptical. "Yes, no family favors, no advisory role, just business." Nathan slumped. "What about me?" I met his gaze. "You walk away with your shares intact, not bankruptcy. Take it or lose everything to the vultures." My father reached for the folder, his hands unsteady. "Your aunt showed me your gala speech online, said you're stronger than me." I shook my head. "Not stronger, just done playing your game." He signed, the pen scratching softly. Nathan hesitated, then followed. As I left, Nathan caught up with me in the hall. "I screwed up, didn't I?" I didn't soften the blow. "We all did. Some of us just had a head start. Back at Vantage, Lila and Marcus were waiting. Champagne, Marcus offered. I waved it off. "Work to do." Lila sighed. "Always work." I smiled faintly. "Not always." Set up an all-staff meeting. Both companies. They need to hear this from me. That night, I visited the old Reed Textiles mill, the one where I'd learned the business as a teenager, counting bolts of cotton under flickering lights. My aunt was there, standing in the empty lot. "Knew you'd come," she said. I faced her. "Did you ever regret staying silent?" She nodded. "Every day. But you're not me, Elise. You're rewriting the story." My phone buzzed. "Marcus. Merger. Docs ready? Equity firms threatening to sue." I typed back, "Let them try. We've got first refusal." My aunt read the message over my shoulder. "What's next?" I looked at the mill, its silhouette stark against the night sky. Now I build something better, not alone. The next morning I stood before hundreds of employees, their faces a mix of hope and fear. "I know you're worried," I began. "Change is terrifying. I've been there, but we're not here to tear down or settle scores. We're here to create something real, something that values every one of you." As I spoke, I felt the weight of the plaque, "Legacy Keeper," fall away. I wasn't keeping anyone's legacy anymore. I was forging my own, and as the applause grew, I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a fight I'd chosen, one that wasn't about revenge, but about what came after. I stepped off the stage, the echo of applause still ringing in my ears. But it wasn't the sound of victory. It was the sound of 1,000 questions left unanswered, a story still unraveling. The employees' faces, hopeful, wary, determined, stayed with me as I moved through Vantage's offices, the weight of their trust heavier than any plaque. My name is Elise, and I'd spent 15 years stitching together a textile empire only to watch it handed to my cousin Nathan, a man whose idea of leadership was a TED Talk and a prayer. But now, with Reed Textiles and Vantage Threads merging under my control, I wasn't just rewriting their story, I was weaving something entirely new. And yet, the fire that had driven me, the one that burned through betrayal and ambition, still flickered, threatening to consume everything I was trying to build. The next morning, I stood in Vantage's conference room, the city skyline sprawling beyond the glass. Lila was at my side, flipping through a tablet with the latest merger projections. Marcus leaned against the wall, his usual smirk replaced by a cautious frown. "The private equity vultures are circling," he said, tossing a news article onto the table. "They're claiming we manipulated the market to tank Reed's stock." I scanned the headline, "Family Feud or Corporate Conspiracy," and felt a familiar spark of anger. "Let them squawk," I said, my voice steady. "We've got the contracts, the suppliers, and the employees. They can't touch us." Lila looked up, her brow creased. "They're not the only problem. Nathan's been calling suppliers, begging for backdoor deals to bypass our exclusivity." I laughed, the sound sharper than I intended. "Let him try. Those suppliers know who holds the cards." But Lila didn't smile. "Elise, he's desperate. Desperate people do stupid things." Her words hung in the air, a warning I couldn't ignore. Nathan wasn't just my cousin anymore. He was a cornered animal, and I'd seen what happened when he felt trapped. My phone buzzed, a text from Tara. "Board's meeting at Reed HQ. Nathan's pitching a Hail Mary to save face. You should be there." I glanced at Lila. "Suit up, we're crashing their party." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You sure? Walking into their den after everything?" I cut him off. "They need to see who's holding the reins." 30 minutes later, we pulled up to Reed Textiles headquarters, the old brick building looming like a monument to my past. The lobby was quiet, the receptionist's eyes widening as I strode past. "They're in the boardroom," she stammered, but I was already moving. The boardroom doors swung open, and the chatter inside died. Nathan stood at the head of the table mid-sentence, his face flushed. My father sat to his right, his expression a mix of exhaustion and defiance. The board members, gray-haired men who'd patted my head and called me sweetheart for years, shifted uncomfortably. "Elise," Nathan said, his voice tight, "this is a closed meeting." I smiled, taking a seat without invitation. "Not anymore. I hear you're trying to undermine my contracts. Thought I'd save you the trouble. My father's eyes narrowed. This is about family, not your vendetta. I leaned forward, my hands clasped. Family? You lost that card when you handed Nathan my job. Now let's talk business. You're out of moves, your stock's in freefall, your suppliers are mine, and your employees are looking to me for answers. Nathan slammed a fist on the table. You can't just steal our company, Lila spoke up, her voice calm but lethal. She didn't steal it. You handed it to her when you bet everything on a plan you couldn't deliver. The room crackled with tension. One of the board members, a man named Harold, who'd always dismissed my ideas as cute, cleared his throat. Elise, what's your endgame? You got the upper hand. Why are you here? I met his gaze. Because I'm offering you a lifeline. Vantage will merge with Reed, keep the jobs, modernize the operation. But it's my way. No half measures, no backroom deals. Nathan laughed bitterly. You expect us to trust you after you stabbed us in the back? Trust. I stood, my voice cutting through the room. You don't get to talk about trust. I built this company while you were chasing influences and enlightenment. I earned every inch of this, and you thought you could take it because you're the future. Well, the future's here, and it's not you. My father's voice was low, almost a growl. You're destroying everything I built. I turned to him, unflinching. No, I'm saving it, but not for you, for the people who actually make this place run. As I left, Lila at my side, I heard Nathan shouting for the lawyers, but it was noise, nothing more. Outside, the air was crisp, the city humming with possibility. Lila glanced at me. You didn't have to go in there. Why did you? I didn't. Answer right away, my eyes on the horizon, because they need to know this isn't revenge anymore. It's bigger than that. But even as I said it, I felt the old fire stir, the one that whispered I wasn't done yet. That night, I found myself back at the old mill, the one where I'd cut my teeth learning the trade. The machines were silent now, the air thick with dust and memory. I traced a finger along a loom, remembering the nights I'd stayed late, perfecting patterns, dreaming of a day when my name would mean something more than daughter. My phone buzzed, a message from my aunt. Found something in your dad's office. Meet me tomorrow. I typed back, what is it? Her reply was cryptic. Proof you were always the plan. The next morning, my aunt arrived at Vantage, a manila envelope in her hands. Her face was pale, her usual composure frayed. I was cleaning out his desk, she said, handing me the envelope. This was hidden in a locked drawer. Inside was a letter, dated 12 years ago, from my father to an investor. My hands shook. As I read, Elise shows remarkable potential, but the industry is unforgiving. Nathan will take the helm to shield her from the pressure. Her role is to lay the groundwork for his success. There was more, a list of projects he'd reassigned. From me to Nathan, deals he'd credited to him, all to build his image. He planned this, I whispered, my voice barely audible. From the start. My aunt nodded, her eyes wet. I didn't know, I swear. I looked at her, the anger rising like a tide. Why show me now? She swallowed hard. Because you deserve the truth, and because I'm done keeping his secrets. I folded the letter, tucking it into my bag. What am I supposed to do with this? Her voice was soft. Whatever you need to. I called Marcus. How would this play in the press? A CEO sabotaging his own daughter to prop up his nephew? His response was immediate. It'd be a bloodbath. Social media would eat it up. Family betrayal would trend for weeks. Lila overheard, her expression wary. Elise, this could destroy them completely. I met her gaze. They destroyed themselves. I'm just holding the mirror. But as I said it, I felt a pang of something else, doubt maybe, or the ghost of who I used to be. Before I could decide, my phone rang. Tara, her voice urgent. Nathan's spiraling. He just fired 2 VPs and hired his old frat buddy as CFO. The board's calling an emergency meeting tonight. I laughed, despite myself. His frat buddy, the guy who crashed a forklift during a summer job? Tara's tone was grim. Yeah. It's bad. I forwarded the letter to Marcus. Leak it, anonymously. Lila grabbed my arm. Elise, You think this isn't just about them anymore. It's about you. What does this make you? I pulled away. It makes me the one who wins. But her words lingered as I drove to Reed's HQ for the emergency meeting. The boardroom was chaos. Nathan pacing, my father absent. The board members shouting over each other. Harold stood when he saw me. Elise, this is a disaster. Nathan's lost it, and now there's this letter hitting the news. I feigned surprise. Letter? He handed me his phone, the headline screaming, Reed Textiles CEO accused of decade-long gender bias against daughter. Nathan spun toward me, his face red. You did this! You're ruining us! I held up a hand. I didn't write that letter, Nathan. Your dad did. Maybe you should have read it before you took my job. The room erupted, board members demanding answers. I stayed calm, my voice cutting through the noise. You've got two choices. Accept Vantage's merger and save what's left, or let this company crash and burn. I'm done cleaning up your messes. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A news alert. My father had been rushed to the hospital again, this time a heart scare. A text from my aunt followed. Is this what you wanted? I stared at the message, the weight of it sinking in. I'd wanted justice, hadn't I? So why did it feel like I was unraveling too? Lila was waiting in the car, her expression unreadable. You saw the news? I nodded, my throat tight. What now? She asked. I looked out at the city, the lights blurring. Now we keep going, but I'm not sure what that means anymore. The next week was a blur. Headlines, lawsuits, and whispers of bankruptcy. I watched Reed Textiles crumble through Tara's updates, each one a victory that tasted like ash. At Vantage, the merger was moving forward, but the air was tense. Employees whispered about the letter, about my role in the scandal. Layla caught me staring out my office window one night. The city, a sea of lights below. You're not sleeping, she said. Not a question. I didn't answer. Elise, this isn't just about winning. It's about what you're becoming. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Meet me, alone. I have something you need to see. I hesitated, then typed back, where? His reply was immediate. Old Mill, midnight. Lila saw the message. Don't go. It's a trap. But I was already grabbing my coat. I need to know what he's got. The mill was dark when I arrived, the air heavy with the scent of oil and history. Nathan stood by the old looms, a folder in his hands. You win, he said, his voice hollow. But you should see this first. He handed me the folder. Inside were emails, dozens of them, between my father and a rival company dated years ago. They detailed a plan to sabotage my early projects, to keep me in check, so Nathan could shine. He didn't just sideline you, Nathan said, his eyes red. He sold you out to competitors to make me look better. I stared at the pages, the betrayal cutting deeper than I'd thought possible. Why show me this? I asked. He shrugged, defeated. Because I'm tired of being his pawn, and because you're not the only one he broke. I left the mill, the folder burning in my hands. Back at Vantage, I called Lila and Marcus. We're not just merging, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. We're rebuilding. New name, new vision. No more shadows of Reed. Textiles? Lila nodded, but her eyes were worried. And the emails? I held up the folder. These stay with me, for now. Marcus leaned forward. You're playing a dangerous game, Elise. This could end them, or you. I looked out at the city. The lights a reminder of everything I'd fought for, everything I'd lost. Then let's make sure it's worth it, I said. But as I spoke, I felt the fire shift. No longer just anger, but something else. Something that could build or destroy, depending on what I chose next. And in that moment, I wasn't sure which path I'd take, only that I wasn't done fighting. Hey, if you're hooked on Elise's story, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. What do you think she'll do with those emails? Let's keep this fire burning. The mill's shadows stretched long across the cracked concrete, swallowing Nathan's silhouette as he stood there, the folder of damning emails still warm in my hand. My name is Elise, and I'd spent years clawing my way to the top of Reed Textiles, only to watch my cousin Nathan claim the throne I'd built. Now with Vantage Threads and Reed merging under my command, I held the power to reshape an empire or burn it to the ground. Those emails, proof of my father's decade-long sabotage, weren't just a weapon. They were a mirror, reflecting a truth I wasn't sure I could face. Nathan's words echoed in the stillness. You're not the only one, he broke. I drove back to Vantage's Boston office, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold and white, my mind racing. Was this justice, or was I just carving deeper wounds? In the office, Lila was waiting, her tablet glowing with merger updates. Marcus lounged by the coffee machine, but his usual swagger was gone, replaced by a cautious edge. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, handing me a mug. I set the folder on the desk, its weight heavier than it should have been. Not a ghost, a betrayal. I slid the emails toward them. Lila scanned the pages, her jaw tightening. He didn't just sideline you. He sold your ideas to competitors to prop up Nathan. This is... She trailed off, shaking her head. Marcus whistled low. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen, or a PR massacre. I leaned back, the leather chair creaking under me. It's more than that. It's proof I was never meant to win. Lila's eyes met mine, steady but worried. What's your move, Elise? You leak this, Reed's done for good. No merger, no jobs, nothing left. I stared at the folder, the old fire stirring in my chest. It would be so easy to release it, to watch my father's legacy crumble under the weight of his own choices. But Tara's words from the diner haunted me. What's left of you? I pushed the folder away. We hold on to it, for now. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You're sitting on a nuke and choosing not to detonate? I stood pacing to the window. The city pulsed below, alive with possibility and peril. I'm not letting his choices define me anymore. We focus on the merger, save the jobs. Build something better. That's the win. Lila nodded, but her voice was soft. And if Nathan keeps pulling stunts, he's not done fighting. I turned, my smile sharp. Then we fight smarter. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Reed Textiles board faces shareholder revolt over leadership crisis. Nathan's erratic moves, firing Key. Staff hiring his unqualified buddy as CFO had sparked a mutiny. I called Tara, who was still embedded at Reed's HQ. What's the mood? I asked. Her voice was clipped. Panic. Shareholders are demanding Nathan's head, and your dad's too weak to step in. They're talking about selling to the equity firm again. I glanced at Lila, who was listening on speaker. Keep us posted, I said, hanging up. Lila tapped her tablet. If the board caves, the merger's dead. We need to move fast. I nodded, grabbing my coat. Set up a meeting with the major shareholders. Today, by noon, we were in a sleek conference room downtown, facing a dozen suits who held Reed's fate in their hands. The lead shareholder, a woman named Vivian with steel gray hair and sharper eyes, leaned forward. Elise, you've got 5 minutes to convince us why your merger's better than a quick sale. I didn't flinch, because a sale means 2,500 jobs lost, factories shuttered, and a legacy reduced to pocket change for vultures. My plan keeps the workforce, modernizes operations, and doubles revenue in 3 years. You've seen Vantage's numbers. We deliver. Vivian's lips twitched, almost a smile. And Nathan, he's still CEO, making a mess. I leaned in, my voice steady. Not for long. Back the merger and I'll handle Nathan. You'll have a stable company and a leader who's proven she can win. The room was quiet, the kind of silence that hums with decision. Vivian nodded. We'll vote tomorrow. Don't disappoint us. As we left, Lila whispered, You just promised to oust Nathan. How? I kept walking. I've got a plan. That afternoon I met Tara at a quiet cafe near the harbor. She slid a USB drive across the table. Nathan's latest move, she said. He's trying to sell off Reed's patents to a shady offshore firm. If he pulls it off, the company's gutted before you can merge. I pocketed the drive, my mind racing. Can you get me proof? Emails? Contracts? Tara nodded. Already. On it. But Elise, he's paranoid. He's got security tailing me. I leaned closer. Then we move faster. You're not alone in this. Back at Vantage, Marcus was digging into the offshore firm. Sketchy as hell, he said, his laptop screen glowing with data. They're linked to a competitor who's been circling Reed for years. If Nathan sells, it's game over. I handed him the USB. Get this to our lawyers. We need to block the sale. Lila looked up from her tablet. And then, you can't just keep playing defense. I smiled, the fire flaring again. We don't. We go public, not with the emails, but with Nathan's incompetence. Let the shareholders see who they're betting on. By evening, Marcus had drafted a press release, carefully worded to expose Nathan's mismanagement without mentioning the emails. I reviewed it, my pen hovering over the page. This'll force the board's hand, I said. Lila hesitated. It'll also humiliate your family. You sure? I thought of my father's letter, the years of sabotage, Nathan's smug grin at the gala. They humiliated themselves. I'm just turning on the light. The release hit the news at dawn. By 9 a.m., my phone was flooded with alerts. Reed Textiles CEO under fire for reckless decisions. Social media was a storm. Nathan Reed failed, trending alongside clips of his disastrous press conference. I watched one, his stammering excuses drowned out by reporters' questions. Is it true you're selling company assets to foreign buyers? He'd fled the podium, sweat staining his collar. I should have felt triumphant, but the hollow ache in my chest wouldn't budge. At noon, Vivian called. The shareholders are with you. Nathan's out, effective immediately. The merger's greenlit, but we want you in the CEO chair by tomorrow. I exhaled, the weight of it settling in. Done. Hanging up, I turned to Lila and Marcus. We did it. Marcus grinned, but Lila's eyes were searching. Did we? Or did you just trade one fight for another? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed, a text from my aunt. Your dad wants to see you. Hospital. Now. The hospital room was dim, the monitor's steady beep a stark contrast to my father's frail frame. He looked up as I entered, his face etched with something I hadn't seen before. Regret, maybe. You won, he said, his voice hoarse. I sat beside him, the folder of emails heavy in my bag. This isn't about winning. It's about fixing what you broke. He coughed, wincing. I thought I was protecting you. This business, it chews people up. I leaned forward, my voice low. You didn't protect me. You used me to build Nathan's throne, then pushed me off the ladder. His eyes glistened, but I didn't soften. I'm merging Reed with Vantage. The employees stay, the company evolves, but you don't get to dictate how this ends. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Elise, I'm sorry. The words landed like stones, too late to matter. I stood, leaving the folder on the tray. Read these when you're stronger. Then tell me what sorry means. As I walked out, I heard him call my name, but I didn't turn back. That night, Vantage's offices were alive with activity, merger plans, employee briefings, new contracts. I stood before a room of workers, Reed and Vantage staff mixed together, their faces a blend of hope and uncertainty. I know you've heard the noise, I began, my voice carrying over the crowd, the headlines, the scandals, the fights. But we're here to build something real, a company that values your work, not your last name. Together we're not just saving jobs, we're creating a future. The applause was tentative at first, then grew, a wave of sound that should have lifted me. But as I stepped down, Lila pulled me aside. Tara's gone dark, no calls, no texts. My stomach twisted. Find her, now! Marcus was already on his laptop tracking her last known location, a warehouse near the docks. She was meeting. A contact about Nathan's patent deal, he said. Then nothing. I grabbed my keys. I'm going. Lila blocked my path. Elise, this feels wrong. Let the lawyers handle it. No, I said, my voice sharp. Tara's in this because of me. I drove to the docks, the warehouse looming in the fog like a ghost. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of oil and rust. I found Tara in the back office, slumped in a chair, a bruise blooming on her cheek. "Elise," she whispered, her voice shaky. "They took the drive, Nathan's people." I knelt beside her, checking her pulse. "Who's they?" She shook her head. "Not just Nathan, someone bigger. They knew about the emails." I helped her up, my mind racing. Nathan wasn't this connected. He was a pawn, just like he'd said. Someone else was pulling strings, someone who wanted Reed and Vantage both to fall. As we left the warehouse, my phone buzzed, a blocked number. The voice on the other end was smooth, unfamiliar. "Nice play with the merger, Elise, but you're stepping on toes. Back off, or Tara's just the start." The line went dead. I glanced at Tara, her eyes wide with fear. "What did they say?" she asked. I tightened my grip on the wheel. "They said the game's not over." Back at Vantage, I gathered Lila and Marcus. "We've got a new player," I said, relaying the call. Marcus frowned. "Competitor? Investor?" Lila's voice was grim. "Or someone your dad pissed off years ago. Those emails mentioned deals with shady firms." I pulled the folder from my bag, the weight of it grounding me. "We need to know who's behind this. Dig into every name in here, every contact, every deal." Marcus nodded, but Lila grabbed my arm. "Elise, you're in deep. This isn't just about Reed anymore." I met her gaze, the fire in my chest burning hotter. It never was. "It's about proving they can't break me." But as I said it, I felt the edges of doubt creep in. The emails, the call, Tara's bruise, they were pieces of a puzzle I didn't fully understand. My phone buzzed again, a text from my aunt. "Found more in his files. Meet me at the mill, alone." I stared at the message, the night pressing in. Around me, whatever was waiting at the mill, it wasn't just answers. It was a choice. Keep fighting the shadows or risk becoming one. The mill stood like a relic of a world I'd outgrown, its rusted beams and broken windows staring back at me in the moonlight. "My name is Elise, and I'd turned Reed Textiles from a fading family business into a $12 million empire, only to see my cousin Nathan crowned its king. Now, with Vantage Threads and Reed merging under my control, I held the power to redefine everything, or lose it all to a shadow I couldn't yet name. The folder of emails, proof of my father's betrayal, burned in my bag, but my aunt's text found more in his files. "Meet me at the mill, alone," felt like a summons to something bigger, something that could either sharpen my resolve or shatter it. I stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the ghosts of my past, my footsteps echoing in the silence. My aunt was waiting near the old looms, a cardboard box at her feet, her face pale under the flickering light of a single bulb. "You came," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I stopped a few feet away, my hands in my pockets to hide their trembling. "You said you found something. What is it?" She nudged the box toward me with her foot. "Your father's. Secrets, not just about you, about the whole company." I knelt, flipping open the lid. Inside were files, yellowed and brittle, some stamped with names I recognized. Competitors, suppliers, even a law firm that had vanished years ago. My heart thudded as I pulled out a ledger, its pages filled with my father's jagged handwriting, detailing payments to offshore accounts labeled consulting fees. "What is this?" I asked, my voice tight. My aunt's eyes were wet, but her jaw was set. "Bribes, backroom deals." "He didn't just sabotage you, Elise. He played dirty to keep Reed Textiles afloat in the early days. Those competitors he sold your ideas to? They were part of a network he built to crush smaller players." I flipped through the ledger, my mind racing, dates, amounts, names. Some I'd seen in the emails Nathan had given me, others new, unfamiliar. "Why keep this hidden?" I asked, looking up. She swallowed hard. "Because it's not just history. Some of those names are still active, and they're not happy you're shaking things up." The weight of her words settled over me like A fog, the mysterious call at the warehouse, Tara's bruise, the offshore firm Nathan had tried to sell Reed's patents to. It wasn't just my family's betrayal I was up against. It was a web my father had spun decades ago, one that was now tightening around me. Who's behind it? I demanded, standing. My aunt shook her head. I don't know, but your dad's been getting calls. Late at night, encrypted lines. He thought I didn't notice. I grabbed the box, my pulse hammering. Why tell me now? Her voice cracked. Because I'm done protecting him, and because you're in deeper than you realize. I drove back to Vantage, the box in the passenger seat like a ticking bomb. Leela and Marcus were waiting in the office, their faces tense. Tara's safe, Lila said before I could ask. She's at my place, shaken but talking. Says the guys who roughed her up mentioned a client who wants Vantage's ecotech in contracts. I set the box on the desk, my hands steady despite the storm inside. It's not just the contracts, it's this. I dumped the files out, the ledger landing with a thud. Marcus picked it up, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the pages. Holy hell! Your dad was running a side hustle with some serious players. These names, half of them are tied to a syndicate that's been dodging regulators for years. Lila's voice was sharp. A syndicate like organized crime? Marcus nodded, his usual grin gone. Not the movie kind, more like corporate sharks who play dirty. If they're after Vantage, it's because your ecotech lines threaten their market. I paced, the pieces clicking into place. My father's deals had kept Reed afloat, but at a cost. Alliances with people who didn't take kindly to disruption. And I disrupted everything, locking up the ecotech market with Vantage's exclusive contracts. The fire in my chest flared, but it wasn't just anger now, it was focus. We need to know who's active, I said. Cross-reference these names with Tara's intel and the offshore firm Nathan was dealing with. Marcus cracked his knuckles, already pulling up his laptop. This is gonna take all night. Lila grabbed a file, but her eyes were on me. Elise, this is bigger than Nathan or your dad. You're poking a bear. I met her gaze, unflinching. Then let's make sure it bleeds. But even as I spoke, I felt the weight of the ledger, the emails, the years of betrayal piling up. This wasn't just about proving they couldn't break me. It was about surviving a fight I hadn't chosen. By dawn, Marcus had a list. 3 names keep popping up, he said, sliding a printout across the desk. A law firm in Zurich, a holding company in Dubai, and a guy named Victor Cade, ex-consultant, now runs a private equity fund with ties to your dad's old deals. I recognized the name. Cade had been mentioned in the emails, a strategic partner who'd profited from my stolen ideas. Where's Cade now? I asked. Marcus tapped his screen. Boston. He's got an office downtown, but he's slippery. Uses proxies, shell companies. Lila frowned. Sounds like the kind of guy who'd send goons after Tara. I stood, grabbing my coat. Then we start with him. Lila blocked the door. Elise, you can't just walk into his office. If he's connected to a syndicate, he's dangerous. I pushed past her, the fire burning hotter. So am I. But as I drove to Cade's office, the city waking around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a trap. The building was all glass and steel, a monument to wealth and secrecy. The receptionist barely glanced up as I strode past, heading for the top floor. Cade's office was sleek, minimalist, with a view that dwarfed Vantage's. He stood behind his desk, a man in his 50s with silver hair and eyes like a predator's. Elise Reed, he said, his voice smooth. I wondered when you'd show up. You know me, I said, keeping my distance. He smiled, gesturing to a chair. I know your work. Your ecotech contracts are causing quite a stir. I didn't sit. Enough to send thugs after my people? His smile didn't waver. Business is a rough game. Your father understood that. The mention of my father was a jab, but I didn't flinch. What do you want? He leaned back, steepling his fingers. A partnership, your contracts, my network. We could dominate the market. I laughed, the sound sharp. You think I'd trust you after what you did to Tara? His eyes narrowed just for a moment. You're in over your head, Elise. Back off, or you'll lose more than a few contracts. I stepped closer, my voice low. Threaten me again, and I'll make sure every name in my father's ledger goes public, starting with yours. He didn't blink, but the air shifted, charged with something dangerous. Bold, he said, but you're not the only one with leverage. My phone buzzed as I left. A text from Tara. Nathan's advantage. He's got files. Says he's helping. I froze. Nathan helping? After everything? It didn't add up. I called Lila. Locked down the office. No one in or out until I'm there. When I arrived, Nathan was in the conference room, a stack of documents on the table. Lila stood guard, her arms crossed. He says he found these in your dad's safe, she said, her voice skeptical. Nathan looked up, his face haggard. I'm not here to fight, Elise. These are contracts, old ones, tied to Cade and his people. Dad kept them as insurance. I flipped through the pages, my pulse racing. They detailed deals between Reed Textiles and Cade's firm, with clauses that gave Cade's network control over key suppliers. Why bring this now? I asked, my eyes on Nathan. He slumped in his chair. Because I'm done being their pawn, and because you're the only one who can stop them. I handed the contracts to Marcus, who was already scanning them. These are gold, he said. If we can prove Cade's violating antitrust laws, we can bury him. Lila's voice was sharp. And Nathan, he's not exactly innocent. I looked at my cousin, the man who'd taken everything I'd built, now sitting broken before me. You want to help? I said. Prove it. Get me access to Cade's current deals. Nathan nodded, his voice low. I'll try. As he left, Lila grabbed my arm. You're trusting him. I shook my head. Not even a little. But he's scared, and scared people are useful. That night, I sat alone in my office. The ledger and contracts spread out before me. The fire that had driven me through the gala, the merger, the fight with my family was still there, but it was changing, tempered by something new. Doubt, maybe. Or the realization that every move I made pulled me deeper into a world I didn't fully understand. My phone buzzed, a blocked number. Cade's voice was calm, too calm. You're making enemies, Elise. Last chance to play nice. I gripped the phone, my voice steady. I don't play nice, I play to win. The line went dead, but the threat lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. The next morning Marcus burst in, his laptop glowing. Nathan came through. He got us. Cade's latest financials, shady transfers, shell companies, the works. I scanned the data, my mind racing. It was enough to take Cade down, but it meant exposing my father's past, maybe even Reed's. Lila watched me, her voice soft. This is it, Elise. You pull this trigger, there's no going back. I looked at the files, the weight of every choice pressing down. The fire burned, but it wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about who I'd become when the smoke cleared. And as I reached for my phone to call the lawyers, I wondered if I was ready to find out. Wow, Elise's fight for control of Reed Textiles just took a dark turn. Those emails, Victor Cade, and a syndicate closing in. Will she outsmart her enemies, or is she in too deep? The stakes are higher than ever, and you won't want to miss. What's next? For another gripping tale of corporate betrayal and power plays, check out this video right here. It's packed with twists that'll keep you hooked. Click now to dive in.